The police lights flashed behind Marcus Reed before he even understood what he had done wrong. He was driving slowly through a quiet street in Beverly Hills, wearing a dark suit, his hands steady on the steering wheel. His phone connected to the car screen showing the address of a children's hospital charity event. His black sports car looked expensive under the streetlights, and the officer behind him kept the siren screaming like Marcus had just escaped from a crime scene. Marcus pulled over near a row of palm trees and turned off the engine. He placed both hands on the wheel the way his father had taught him when he was 16. Do not move fast. Do not argue first. Do not reach for anything unless they ask. Stay calm, even if your heart is beating like thunder. He remembered those words now as 2 police cars stopped behind him. Then a third one turned the corner and blocked the front of his car. A white officer stepped out with one hand near his belt. His face was hard before he even reached the window. Marcus lowered the glass slowly. License and registration, the officer said. Marcus kept his voice calm. Of course, officer, my wallet is in my inside jacket pocket, and the registration is in the glove box. May I reach for them? The officer looked at the car, then looked at Marcus, then leaned closer. Where did you get this vehicle? Marcus blinked once. I bought it. The officer gave a short laugh, not loud enough for the other officers, but loud enough for Marcus. You bought this? Yes, sir. Step out of the car. Marcus felt the old familiar coldness move through his chest. Not fear exactly, but something heavier than fear. The feeling of knowing the truth might not matter for the next few minutes. He opened the door carefully and stepped onto the curb with his hands visible. A small crowd began to gather outside a luxury restaurant. People in expensive coats turned their heads. Some lifted phones. A couple sitting on the patio whispered, while pretending not to stare. Marcus could feel every camera on him. The officer pointed at the hood, hands on the car. Marcus did as he was told. Officer, can I ask why I was pulled over? The officer walked around the car slowly. Vehicle matching a description. What description? A stolen luxury vehicle. Marcus swallowed. This car is registered to me. We will see about that. Another officer, younger and nervous, looked at Marcus's face, then at the license plate. Something about him seemed unsure. But the first officer was not unsure at all. He spoke like he had already decided the ending. What do you do for work? The officer asked. Marcus kept his eyes forward. I am a professional basketball player. The officer laughed again. This time, 2 people in the crowd heard it. Right, and I'm the mayor. Marcus closed his eyes for 1 second. He had spent his whole life building discipline. He had ignored insults in school gyms, online comments, hotel lobbies, and airport lines. He had learned to smile when people asked if he was security at events where his name was printed on the invitation. But this one hurt because he was on his way to donate $2 million to the children's hospital where his mother had once worked nights cleaning floors. The officer took Marcus's wallet and looked at the license. Marcus Reed. Yes. The younger officer's eyes widened. He looked up quickly. Wait, Marcus Reed from the Los Angeles Titans. The first officer shot him a look. Run the license. The younger officer hesitated. Sir, I think he really is. I said, run it. Marcus stayed silent while the crowd grew larger. A woman near the restaurant entrance whispered, Is that really him? A man beside her said, No way. Why would he be pulled over like that? The first officer came back closer. Do you have any weapons in the car? No, sir. Drugs? No, sir. Anything stolen? Marcus looked at him slowly. No, sir. The officer leaned in. You understand how this looks, right? Marcus turned his head just enough to meet his eyes. How does it look? The officer paused. Like someone who does not belong in this car. The words landed harder than the flashing lights. The street went quiet for Marcus even though people were still talking, cars were still passing, and phones were still recording. He had heard different versions of that sentence all his life. You do not belong in this school. You do not belong in this neighborhood. You do not belong in first class. You do not belong in that house. You do not belong in that car. Marcus took one slow breath. I understand exactly what you mean. The younger officer returned from his car, face pale. Sir, registration checks out. Vehicle belongs to Marcus Reed. No warrants. Clean record. The first officer did not move. His jaw tightened like the truth had insulted him. Check again. I did, sir. Check the VIN. Marcus finally turned slightly. Officer, I am late for a charity event. The first officer looked at him with cold eyes. You will leave when I say you leave. A little boy from the crowd suddenly stepped forward with his mother. He was maybe 10 years old, wearing a blue Titans hoodie with Marcus's number on the back. His eyes were wide, confused, and scared. Mom, the boy whispered. That is Marcus Reed. His mother pulled him back gently, but Marcus saw him. The boy looked like he wanted his hero to say something powerful, something brave, something that would make the world make sense, but Marcus could not give him a movie moment. Not yet. In real life, one wrong word could turn a traffic stop into a tragedy. Then, a black SUV pulled up behind the police cars. A woman stepped out wearing a hospital badge and a formal dress. It was Dr. Elaine Porter, director of the Children's Hospital Foundation. She hurried toward the scene with two event organizers behind her. "Marcus," she called out. The first officer turned. "Ma'am, step back." Dr. Porter stopped, shocked. "Officer, this man is the guest of honor at our charity event tonight. Hundreds of people are waiting for him." The officer frowned. "This is an active stop." She looked at Marcus's hands still on the hood of the car. Her face changed from confusion to anger. "Why is he being treated like this?" the officer said. "Vehicle investigation." Dr. Porter pointed toward the car. "That vehicle is part of tonight's donor entrance. His team sent us the details this afternoon. He donated enough money tonight to fund a new pediatric recovery wing." The crowd reacted with gasps and whispers. The woman with the little boy covered her mouth. The boy stared at Marcus like the whole world had just shifted under his feet. The younger officer stepped closer to the first officer and spoke quietly, but Marcus still heard him. "Sir, we should let him go." The first officer looked around now. Too many phones, too many witnesses, too much truth. He handed Marcus back his license and wallet without apology. "You are free to go," he said. Marcus slowly removed his hands from the hood. He turned around, straightened his suit jacket, and looked at the officer. "That is it?" Marcus asked calmly. The officer's face stayed hard. "You are free to go." Dr. Porter stepped beside Marcus. "He deserves an apology." The officer glanced at the cameras. For the first time, he looked uncomfortable. "There was a report," Marcus said. "There was no report. There was an assumption. Nobody moved." Marcus continued, his voice low but clear. "You saw a black man in an expensive car and decided the car had to be stolen before you even asked my name. You laughed when I told you who I was. You told me I looked like someone who did not belong." The officer looked away. Marcus turned toward the little boy in the Titan's hoodie. The child was still watching, eyes full of hurt. Marcus walked over slowly and kneeled down in front of him. "What is your name?" Marcus asked. The boy's voice shook. "Caleb." Marcus smiled gently. "Caleb, do not let anyone's fear decide your worth. Not a police officer, not a stranger, not a crowd. You belong anywhere your hard work takes you." Caleb nodded, trying not to cry. Marcus stood up and looked back at the officer. "I am going to the hospital now. Not because I want applause, and not because I want revenge. I am going because those children are waiting, and they matter more than your mistake." Dr. Porter walked with him to the car. The crowd moved aside. Some people clapped softly at first, then louder. The officer stood frozen beside his patrol car, while the same people who had recorded Marcus being humiliated now recorded him leaving with dignity. But Marcus did not feel victorious. He felt tired. At the hospital event, the room was full of donors, doctors, nurses, and families. Everyone had already seen the video. It was spreading fast online. When Marcus walked onto the stage, the applause was loud, but he raised one hand and waited until the room became quiet. He looked at the children sitting in the front row, some in wheelchairs, some wearing masks, some holding basketballs waiting for his signature. "I was almost late tonight," Marcus began. "Not because of traffic, not because of anything I did. I was stopped because someone looked at me and decided my success was suspicious." The room went silent. Marcus looked down for a moment, then continued. "My mother cleaned hospital floors for 23 years. She came home tired, but she always told me that dignity is something nobody can take unless you hand it over. Tonight, I had to remember that." A nurse in the front wiped her eyes. Marcus said, "This donation is not just for a building. It is for every child who has been underestimated, every parent who works 2 jobs, every person who has been told they do not belong in a room they earned the right to enter." The applause started again, stronger this time, but Marcus was not finished. "And to the young people watching what happened tonight, listen to me. Do not become cruel because someone was cruel to you. Do not shrink because someone is uncomfortable with your shine. Keep your hands steady. Keep your heart clean. Keep going." The room stood up. The next morning, the video had millions of views. News stations played the moment where the officer said Marcus did not belong. People argued online. Some defended the officer, some demanded he be fired, but Marcus did not post anger. He posted one photo from the hospital, sitting beside Caleb, the little boy from the street, both of them holding a signed basketball. The caption said, "Teach children they belong before the world teaches them to doubt it." A week later, the police department opened an investigation. The officer was removed from street duty. More importantly, the department announced new bias training, body camera review rules, and a community program with local youth. Marcus agreed to attend the first meeting, but only on one condition. Caleb had to be invited to. At that meeting, the same officer stood in front of the community. His face looked different now, not proud, not powerful, just exposed. He looked at Marcus and said, "I was wrong. I judged you before I knew anything about you. I embarrassed you in public, and I am sorry." The room waited for Marcus to respond. Marcus stood slowly, Your apology does not erase what happened, he said. But if it changes what you do next, then it can still mean something. The officer nodded. Caleb raised his hand from the front row. Everyone turned toward him. Can I say something? He asked. Marcus smiled. Go ahead. Caleb stood up, holding the same signed basketball. When I saw Mr. Reed on the car, I got scared because I thought if it could happen to him, it could happen to anyone. But then he talked to me and told me I belong anywhere my hard work takes me. So I just want to say, grown-ups should be careful what they teach kids without using words. The room went completely silent. Even the officer looked down. Marcus placed a hand on Caleb's shoulder. In that moment, the whole room understood something simple and painful. Racism was not always loud. Sometimes it was a look, a laugh, a question, a hand near a belt, a decision made before a name was known. And sometimes, the deepest damage was done to the children watching from the sidewalk. Marcus never forgot that night. Not because of the humiliation, but because of Caleb's face. Years later, when people asked him why he kept funding youth programs, why he kept visiting hospitals, why he kept speaking calmly when anger would have been easier, Marcus always gave the same answer. Because somebody is always watching. And I want them to see that dignity can survive disrespect. Truth can outlive judgment. And no one has the right to decide where you belong before they even know who you are.